On today's podcast, we are coming with news to share with you that I have a new book. My next book is coming out. It is complete. It is off to the publishers, and it is in the process and will be coming out and released in this summer of 2022. It is titled Breathing Oxygen. Breathing Oxygen. How Positive Leadership Gives Life to Winning Cultures. And so on today's pod, we'll intro some of the themes of the book and share about the upcoming launch for this summer of Breathing Oxygen. Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. I am so excited wherever you are, however you're coming to the podcast today, welcome back. If you are one of the originals, the OGs from way back when this podcast began, welcome back. So glad you continue to come back. And if you are new to the podcast, welcome. Glad you're here. Buckle up, jump in, and glad that you are a part of this podcast. We are in season 6 of the podcast, well over 100 episodes now, which is still hard to believe, but a lot of great stuff, amazing conversations I've been able to have with some thought leaders from around the world. And then also a lot of micro podcasts about topics that are certainly relevant to developing our own mindsets, our own leadership, the culture of our team and organizations, and certainly clarity around mission, vision, and values. So glad you're here. As always, it's my promise to you. My hope is that this is a time in your day, in your week, in your month, some sacred time for you to step back, for you to think, for you to be filled with some positive messages and some things that feed you in some proactive and good ways, and really just help you wherever you are along your journey. If you will do me a quick favor before we dive into today's episode, if you will do me a quick favor and just rate this podcast on whatever podcast platform you're on, rate it 5 stars, of course. If you're willing to leave a nice review, I would very much appreciate that. If you're willing to, obviously, hopefully you're already subscribing, but share it with the people in your network, social media or messages to others. Just share it. If this has been meaningful to you and these are topics that you think are worthy of sharing, I hope you will share them. I'm asking all these things because whether we like it or not, that's just the way that these things spread. That's the way the algorithms work. And so if we want more people to be able to access these kind of messages, then you really are the ones that help us do that. So thank you for everybody who takes a moment and helps amplify this podcast. We have just wrapped up a multi-episode series on the podcast related to the Great Resignation. So if you didn't catch those episodes, I encourage you to go back and listen to them. Really great stuff, very relevant for what's going on in every team and organization around the globe right now. So we dedicated each one of the podcasts talking about not only retaining talent, but attracting talent, developing talent, and the mindset and actions that are needed right now that of the things that are within our control. We know that so much in the world has been happening that seems out of our control, swirling around us. So what are the things as leaders and as teams and organizations that are within our control? And so we talked about this idea of retaining talent, attracting talent, and developing talent. And anyway, if you missed out on it, please go back and listen. It's been really valuable. We've received great feedback about that already. So with all that has been happening in the world over the last 2 years, and now hopefully, we're navigating ourselves, fingers crossed, out of a global pandemic, we know that cultures of engagement, of purpose, of connection are needed more than ever. So this type of topics that we're talking about on this podcast, developing our own individual mindsets, but then also our own leadership, developing people in our organizations, developing culture, developing emotional intelligence, developing clarity around mission, vision, and values has never been more important than it is today. So thanks for being back and being part of these conversations. So on today's podcast, we are coming actually to you with breaking news that is just now being released and that I am excited and admittedly a little bit anxious also to share with you, but super excited to share with you that I have a new book. My next book is coming out. It is complete. It is off to the publishers and it is in the process and will be coming out and released in this summer of 2022. It is titled Breathing Oxygen, How Positive Leadership Gives Life to Winning Cultures. And so on today's pod, we'll intro some of the themes of the book and share about the upcoming launch for this summer of Breathing Oxygen. For now, let's take a quick break. Let's pause for a second, take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Many teams and organizations right now are realizing that they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, where everyone in the room can experience the energy of congregating together and find clarity for the road ahead. And they also need to continue to find ways to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually, with those who are working remotely or at a distance. So, if you are in the process of planning your next team meeting, company all-hands event, conference, or culture summit, and are looking for support with a powerful keynote speech, facilitated team conversations that are the currency for change, or deeper development on leadership mindset and an intentional strategy for the culture you're trying to create, I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon. It is with a great deep breath and exhale, of course, but also a just celebration that I'm pleased to share with you, everyone on the podcast, that my new book is with the publisher and will be coming out in the summer of 2022. The reason why we're saying summer 22 right now is because, believe it or not, with all the supply chain issues in the world, that is also impacting the book industry. And so we have a floating launch date for this summer that continues to be impacted by supply chain. So we actually aren't even able yet to give an official release date yet until some things get cleared up more in the supply chain. So we know that it's coming this summer. It's everything from my point of view is all done, all finished. It's all wrapped up. And so that's the great celebration, at least from my end of it, is that the heavy lifting of actually writing the book and getting everything, certainly the wonderful work being done to put this book together by so many people that help support me in doing it. Amazing team with Amplify Books and Mascot Books that have been helping with this. Adam Emery doing an amazing job with cover design and all that. And so many, many, many people that I could keep naming that have helped bring this book to life. So the heavy lifting is done. And for anyone who has written or has an appreciation for just the process of writing a book, you know that the feeling of birthing a new baby, that with that comes a great deal of excitement, and there's been a whole lot of hard work that's gone into it, and certainly a lot of excitement to share it, but also a little bit of anxiousness around, you're putting yourself out there again, and you're hoping that it resonates with people, and that, it's easier to not put anything out in the world than it is to put things out into the world. And so a little bit of anxiousness that comes with that, but also extreme excitement about the messages and the purpose and the point of this book and this topic that is going to build upon all the other themes and all the other books that I've been lucky and fortunate to to dive into and write and bring to life into the past. So the heavy lifting is done, and it's hard to believe that this will now be my fourth book. Fourth baby, I guess, if you will. And each experience of writing has been different. Each one of them has been different. Each experience, certainly when you're writing your first book, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was just so passionate about the message of the book and the story and trying to bring it to life and the creative exercise of bringing Step Back from the Baggage Claim to life that I just dove into the process and the craft of trying to write the book. And certainly since that first book, there was so much that I learned about the process and about, my own individual process and navigating your own mentality around passion and excitement for the topic, but also, anxiousness with, again, your name on it and releasing into the world where anybody can, and especially in a world of critics, that anybody can call you anything or say anything they want about it, to be able to stand behind the messages that you put out in the world and really do that with confidence and conviction, even though that, again, that it's easier to not say anything than it is to say something, especially in the world that we're in today. So each time it's been different, certainly from Step Back from the Baggage Claim, the first book, to then the launch of Remember, my second book, which, again, I think hopefully I got better of just my own process and understanding and ability to do that, but still, it's still scary to put something out into the world. And then Thermostat Cultures, I think even more understanding and ability to kind of navigate that process for myself as a writer, but then also of releasing that in the world. And now excited to release Breathing Oxygen and to share it with all of you. So each process has been different. It's been exciting. It certainly is challenging to dive in and to really bring something like this to life and to share your thoughts and feelings. And it's required discipline and perseverance. And certainly at the core of all of this is a great sense of gratitude for so many of you out there and people that support me and believe in me and want to help amplify great messages into the world, things that matter and are positive and bring out the best, hopefully, in people. And so a great sense of gratitude for even the opportunity to do this. It's required patience to continue to stay in the process and long hours of bringing it to life. And then lastly, it requires courage. It requires courage, again, to put your name on something and put it out into the world. Anybody who has started something, founded something, created something and put it out in the world, that it requires courage. Courage to stand behind it and to be willing to share it and invite others to consider what it is that you're putting out there. So I'll just say this from the very beginning. Thank you to anyone out there who's listening to this and hopefully is excited about the announcement of this launch of the new book, Breathing Oxygen, coming this summer. Thank you in advance for your support. For your support of me and your support of the messages and hopefully your willingness to share it with other people, because that's ultimately how these things spread. So we'll certainly share more about the book in the coming months. You're going to, again, as we begin to part of the birthing of this new baby, this new book, is to share it over the next few months. There's going to be a lot that we'll share to continue to kind of put ourselves even further out there and be willing to share this up until the launch. But for now, I want to share on this podcast just quickly some key elements that I think are worthy of sharing with you right now. These 4 things I want to share with you a little bit about why did I write this book. I want to just give a quick synopsis of the metaphor of the book, highlight just the basic kind of layout of the book and the chapters, and then I want to talk to you about the launch of the book and hopefully the role that you all can play in helping it to be a success so that these messages can reach more and more people. So first, I'll just start out with why did I write this book? Why did I write this book? Well, if the last 2 years have shown us anything when you think about the last 2 years of our lives and in the world. Certainly a global pandemic, changes in the workforce, and all this talk about the future of work, issues of social justice, even more, it seems like angst and division and disconnection in the world, isolation and quarantine, mental health issues, and also people, I think, reevaluating and saying, what is the life that I want to have, and what kind of impact do I want to have in the world, and navigating our way through times where nobody predicted all of these things to be happening. And so it's been challenging for all of us to kind of navigate our way through obstacles that have come along our path. And also, there's been opportunities for us to create a new life that we've wanted to have. And so as I've reflected on my own experience over the last 2 years, but then also studied and researched others, and also all my experiences within many different teams and companies and organizations across industries, why did I write this book? Is because I've seen how important it is for me, but also for all the others that I've studied and connected with and partnered with, how important it is to breathe in good oxygen, And so why did I write this? Because I've been really aware of the mindsets that fuel us individually and collectively. I wrote this book for you, but I also wrote it for me. I wrote this book for me. To remind myself of the mindsets that I want to kind of breathe in, and the oxygen, the good oxygen that I need to inhale, so that I'm the best me and living and creating the life that I want to live and the person that I want to be in the world, in my work, in my relationships, in my life. And so I wrote this book for me just as much as I wrote it for you. It's about my, individual experience, but also as well as my observations, my experiences with the other teams and organizations that I have watched navigating, and the mindsets that I think are needed in order to navigate the world that we're in right now. And then also research and study that backs up, all of these things that we're talking about in terms of breathing in good oxygen and how that leads to better performance, how it gives us energy individually and gives us energy to create the kind of cultures and relationships that we want. So I wrote this book in short because I see that it's needed. It's needed for us individually, but it's also needed for us collectively as teams and organizations. The metaphor. Why this metaphor of breathing oxygen? Well, breathing is essential to our existence. Breathing is essential to our existence. We do it involuntarily, thankfully. All of us as humans, we're lucky that when we're going throughout our days, our body involuntarily breathes to keep us alive. And so we do it involuntarily, but we also do it voluntarily. There are moments when we know we need to slow ourselves down. We need to take a deep breath. We need to kind of regulate our emotions, and that we know that breathing is one of the voluntary things that we do to help fuel us with energy and thinking and emotions that we need in each moment. So breathing is involuntary and voluntary. And we all know there's good oxygen that we need to breathe. There's, when the part of the metaphor is talking about, this isn't just about the scientific elements of breathing, although I identify some of those things in the book, but it's a metaphor. So again, I hope you hear it and read it this way. But we all have good oxygen that we breathe in. Thoughts, ideas, reminders, things that we focus on, our intentionality, there's our gratitude, there's good oxygen that we breathe that ends up bringing out the best in us, in ourselves individually, but then good oxygen that I identify, by the way, in the book, good oxygen and mindsets that we breathe in as teams and at collective cultures that bring out the best in each other, in ourselves and in each other. But we also know there's toxic air, and especially in the world that we've been living in, there's toxic air that we need to exhale. So there's toxic air around us all the time of negativity, of gossip, of false narratives, stories that we are telling ourselves or we are perpetuating across friend groups and people of differences than us and across teams and organizations and cultures. There's false narratives. There's blame. There's finger pointing. There's gossip. There's all of this kind of toxic air that sometimes we as individuals, but also as teams and organizations, we can get almost obsessed with breathing that in, that we almost are drawn to the gossip, to the negativity, to the kind of finger pointing, because in a sick way, it makes us feel better about ourselves, but it keeps us kind of inhaling this toxic air that we know isn't good for us and actually impacts our performance as in our work, with our teams, the mission that we're here to accomplish, but also in our personal lives for the people we're trying to be, for our relationships. We know the toxic air is not good for us to breathe. And so what do we inhale? And what are the kind of mindsets that we feed? And what are the mindsets that we exhale and the things that we let go of, and make sure that we are exhaling so that we can breathe better and more effectively for all that we're trying to accomplish. It's more important now than ever for leaders, individual leaders, to kind of breathe in good oxygen, and then for also entire teams and organizations of how do we breathe oxygen into each other so that we can bring energy and life to each other. Everybody knows the experience of somebody who can walk into a room and kind of breathe life into an entire room, and others that kind of can come in and suck the energy and almost like suffocate the oxygen in a room. And so what is it that how can we breathe oxygen into ourselves and into others? The book and the chapters of the book and how is it organized, I'll just quickly share with you that it not only does it set up the metaphor and explain this kind of breathing oxygen metaphor, but it also breaks it up into 6 key mindsets that leaders and teams can breathe that give life to their performance, gives energy and life to their own individual performance, again, in their work, but also in their life beyond their work. But also, what are these 6 key mindsets that leaders breathe not only into their individual performance, but give life and energy to their team culture? Once, in thermostat cultures, I talk about the process that we go through to proactively shape team culture. And how do we begin to get aligned and begin to set the temperature that we want for the culture, and what is the process for culture shaping? And then this book, Breathing Oxygen, is, what's the oxygen we need to continue to breathe into it individually and collectively to kind of keep that culture going and living and breathing together. So it focuses, the book focuses, and these chapters focus on these kind of 6 breathing oxygen mindsets of clarity, and talking about how important it is and how much energy it brings to all of us when things are clearer to us in foggy and uncertain times, how important it is for us individually, but also the people around us to breathe in clarity of mission, clarity of vision, clarity of values, clarity of roles and expectations, clarity of what we're trying to accomplish together. And so to make sure that we're focusing in on that, we need to breathe in good oxygen around the mindset of inclusivity, of it gives us energy within our lives and also our teams and organizations to welcome diverse thinking, diverse ideas, diverse backgrounds, and welcoming and being inclusive in our thought and in our experience within our teams and organizations. When we are inclusive in those actions, in those mindsets, it actually gives life and energy to the people around us in exciting ways. We know that also we need to feed and breathe in an oxygen of agility. We know that the path that we are on is going to have twists and turns and changes, pivots along the way. And so breathing in and practicing some kind of mental agility and breathing in that oxygen makes us more capable of doing that along our path. We know that we're going to need to breathe in oxygen of grit, oxygen and a mentality, a mindset around. We know that, especially over the last 2 years, it's taught us that there are going to be obstacles and challenges and struggles along our path. And so, to be great at anything, to accomplish a significant mission that we're on together, individually or collectively, is going to require grit. And so even, the most elite and best individuals, teams, leaders, organizations, entire, companies or organizations or teams, they know that it's not the absence of challenge and struggle and obstacles that that makes them great or helps them have success. It's the ability to navigate their way through it and have a mindset of how do we deal with challenging and have the kind of grit that we need. And so we talk about that. We also talk about the mindset of rest and really having a new association and connecting the dots to what does elite performance look like. And actually, it is going to require all the things that we talk about in terms of grit and everything I just said. Of course, we lay that out very well, that it's going to require that. But part of navigating our way for the long haul, sustainability, is going to require us to also be very intentional and strategic about how do we rest our mind, our body, our spirit, so that we are actually at our best when our best is needed. And then lastly, we talk about the sixth mindset of accountability, of ownership, and really redefining what does the word accountability mean, and that actually it's a very positive thing, that when we are accountable to each other, that actually it gives life to a relationship, but also a life and energy to a culture and a group of people. And that really we want to be owners. We want to have a mindset where we are positively accountable to each other, not negatively slap on the wrist kind of accountability, but positively we want to raise to the level of the occasion to feed that kind of mindset. These 6 key mindsets, that I'm identifying right now, of clarity, of inclusivity, agility, grit, rest, and ownership, those are mindsets and actions and leadership that we practice, that we breathe in. There's things we need to inhale and there's things we need to exhale. And in that process of breathing good oxygen, it impacts the performance and the culture of high-performing teams. And I tell some great examples and stories of course, all of this, and certainly some research that backs all of this up as well. So I hope you're excited about kind of the layout and the chapters and the topics of this book as well. And then lastly, on this podcast, I'll just talk to you about the launch, because the launch of the book and of these messages out in the world, again, I need you all more than ever. But again, with the supply chain issues that are impacting the book in the book industry, we're still, again, we'll as we get closer to summer, we'll be able to give you an exact date of when the exact publication date of the book is, once that is able to be set based on these supply chain issues. But we know it's going to be in the summer. And because, this book isn't the only book out there, we know we're going to have to be patient and understand that the supply chains, issue is happening. So we're going to need mental agility, of course, to be patient and to be excited. But more likely, it's going to be a launch date in July or August. But we're kind of still waiting to see what that exact date will be. So this. What we're going to need is this spring and then into the summer, we're going to need help spreading the word. So we are creating a launch team, and I'm so great to have support and help from somebody on my team named Clint, who's going to be organizing all this and leading all of this. But I need all of you, anybody that's willing and wanting to be a part of my launch team. There's just a few, not a whole lot of time-consuming things that we're asking of you, and that Clint is going to be asking of all of you, but ways in which that you can help support a successful launch of the book. And so if you are interested, if you are able, if you are hopefully so fired up to support this effort, then I hope you will please email us at info at jasonvbarger.com, info at jasonvbarger.com, and just let us know, hey, I want to help. I want to be a part of the launch team. And if you have other ideas about your team or organization or ways in which you want to be helpful, bulk copies or things for your organization, your team, or any other creative ideas that you have that you think might be helpful to the launch, then I hope you'll also please reach out to us and let us know, because, again, we don't have all the answers. We just know it's going to be really important, and we need a lot of people to be a part of helping to amplify these messages into the world and be a part of a successful launch. So stay tuned for more more information coming this spring and into the summer. But if you're willing to be a part of the launch or you have creative ideas, please send us a message, info@jasonvbarger.com, and say, hey, I want to help, and let us know what's on your mind, and we'll get you involved and engaged. So, like always on this podcast for this week, I want to give you some teaser questions for you to just ponder that are related to the topic that we're talking about today. So, some questions for this week for you. Who has breathed good oxygen? Who has breathed good oxygen into your life or your career and made a significant impact on you? Who are some people that have kind of breathed good oxygen into your life or career and made a significant impact on you? In what ways could you breathe oxygen into yourself and your team? Again, however you define that word team in your life and your work. But how could you breathe good oxygen into yourself and your team in the coming year? And what are the mindsets that you hope to develop and hope to support along the way? I hope that you take a moment even here as we make this announcement about breathing oxygen to take a second to breathe in oxygen of appreciation. I certainly am doing that of all of you, of gratitude for the people around you. I'm grateful for all of you, for all that is within our control in the world, even in the midst of things that feel out of our control. Now is a chance for all of us to breathe in good oxygen, to positively impact ourselves, but also the people around us on our teams and anybody along us on our journey. That gives good energy to those around us. So calibrating our own personal thermostat for our own response, our own awareness about ourselves and others, and calibrating how are we going to kind of breathe good oxygen into that so that we can continue to set that temperature and be the thermostats that we continue to talk about. From our own internal temperature, we set a temperature externally for others based on our response and behaviors and those mindsets that we breathe in and that we inhale and the ones that we exhale, and how we kind of commit to breathing good oxygen. So I hope you'll keep tuning in. This great season of the podcast continues, and I know there's a lot of great topics that are still to come to support our efforts to try to be authentic as leaders in the world and create compelling cultures. On the next episode, in fact, next couple episodes, we're going to dive deeper into topics of emotional intelligence and some key tips and elements to try to practice this kind of emotional intelligence in our own lives and in our own work. So remember, the best leaders, teams, and cultures on the planet stimulate progress by recalibrating their thermostats and breathing in good oxygen together. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.